Happy Monday, everybody. I hope everybody is well. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Today is August 2nd, 2021, and this is your Monday market update video. So there's been a lot going on in the past few weeks as earnings beauty pageant has continued to go on. Last week, over 150 different S&P 500 companies reported, including some of the largest companies we know. So let's jump right in. Let's recap what happened last week. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about this week, what we're going to watch for this week. In addition to the earnings, we had Robinhood coming public through an IPO that sort of fell flat. What does that say about what's going on in speculation and what's going on in the markets? Don't know. We'll have to see. We saw crypto all over the place, economic data galore, and even the Fed. Oh, and let's not forget, we had some COVID news. We had the Olympics, and not to be outdone, Congress and infrastructure. So here's a quick play-by-play on last week. The week started off on the downside. Monday, we saw concerns about the Chinese market declines, and that was the start of the day. By the end of the day, the news from Great Britain that they've started to see a slowing of the case count growth, and so for COVID, so that took the market, had the market bottom and rallied, ended just slightly ahead for the day. Market reversed on Tuesday, gave all that back and then some. Monday, down about 0.5%. The CDC recommended we go back to wearing masks indoors, vaccinated or not. So again, we did get a bounce off the lows, but we still finished lower for the day. Wednesday was a sideways day. Remember, Wednesday was the Fed day. So we got we got some mixed earnings from the mega cap companies. We got Microsoft and Google had good earnings. Apple had some disappointing guidance. The Fed meeting ended as expected, and the press conference was viewed slightly dovish. So the S&P 500 ended almost flat for the day. We've seen a lot of this lately. It does take people, humans, a lot more time to unpack some of this data than the algorithms do. So we see what happened on Thursday. Thursday, we saw the market digest all of that and jump back to record highs. Economic news that was not so great. So again, I think we got people going with the bad news is good news, keeps the Fed at bay. See what happens with that. Jay Powell did continue to put the focus on progress in the labor markets. So the S&P 500 was up 0.42% for the day. Friday, the last trading day of the month, market gapped lower thanks to Amazon had some disappointing earnings, and as well, the CDC had a memo out, an internal memo out that said that the Delta variant was as contagious as the chickenpox. The S&P tried to rebound on the day, but closed about 0.5% lower for the day, about 0.33% lower for the week, but it did finish the 6th month in a row of positive returns this year. So this week's going to be another big week. Big economic news today with the ISM Manufacturing Index. ISM Services will be on Wednesday. Jobless numbers, of course, as usual on Thursday. And as always, the first week of the month, it's jobs week. So throw in a few Fed governors speaking and even the vice chair on Wednesday. This is sure to be a pretty busy week. Oh, and if that's not enough, another 25% of the S&P 500 companies are reporting their earnings this week. So as many as 85% of the companies that have already reported have mentioned inflation in their calls. Interesting. The Fed's not worried about it. Congress is not worried about it. The market most days is not worried about it. Should we be worried about it? We just have to keep an eye on that. So we also know that more than 88% of the S&P 500 companies that have reported have beat earnings expectation. And most of them have been positive about what's going on in the future. There's a lot of good news baked into this market, a lot of good news baked into the prices, but what we're seeing right now is that there's probably some good news still ahead. So it's not always going to be smooth sailing. We've seen that even just the last couple of weeks, but keep an eye out. As I mentioned, the first week of the month is jobs week. That may just be the major news of the week. So keep an eye out. That's not till Friday. We got a lot of water to go under the bridge before then. So although most of the companies, although the amount of companies reporting this week is still high, we've seen the big ones. Now we've seen some interesting news on we will see some interesting news on the reopening trades. We've already seen news today and over the weekend from Zoom and from Square. But make no mistake about it, the big names are in the books already. Some are still left to come, but the Fed is likely going to steal the show unless, of course, COVID steals the show, and that's the one I'm betting on. Although we have a lot going on in addition to the Delta variant, it does put itself front and center. Why is that? Our kids are supposed to go back to school soon. So, vaccinated or not, it seems like they're going to go back to school wearing masks. There was a great cartoon in the Chicago Tribune over the weekend about the back and forth of the CDC, a little bit about like the hokey pokey. But as long as this virus keeps changing, I'm sure that we're going to keep changing, and we're going to have a lot of changes that are going to be left to go. So stay tuned. I do not see this country dealing well with going back into lockdowns, but there's a lot of things that can happen between where we are now and where we were last March. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic for the market to deal with, as once again we're knocking on all-time highs. So watch for this week. The Fed holds the cards. I'd be watching for the good news is bad news trade, or the bad news is good news trades, however you want to look at it. Half to empty or half full. And Art Cashin, he usually says in his report, we just have to stay nimble. So that's what we're going to do. Remember, this is the market update video. This is the one that we really get into the weeds, get into the micro on it. Remember, Friday is when you'll get the planning video where we really get back to focusing on our goals. So please watch out for the Friday video, because there's a lot going on as we move towards the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall. That's all we got today. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.